Hello there and welcome back to the channel. Something different today. Now some of you might have noticed that in some of my previous videos, if you watched those, if you didn't watch those, please do go watch them. There are a couple of cool videos. I teased a new mystery project due to join the channel. So without any further ado, this is Suzie. It is a nondescript old single cab KB250 Isuzu body and chassis sitting on 1991 Hilux SFA front and rear axles, gearbox, transfer case, a brand new 4Y crate engine. So basically this entire running gear is Toyota Hilux. This thing used to be a 2x4 non-turbo diesel farm workhorse runabout thingamabobbin, and now it's a solid front axle 4x4 with a 2.2 litre petrol engine in it. So since it's running and driving, all is good. The difficult part has been done, but she needs that last 10% to really be as good as she deserves to be. All I can tell you for now is that this is an unfinished project that my father purchased, and I will now be finishing it. Now she did come with an entire load bin full of spare parts, extra parts, new parts, whatnot. I've already gone out and hoarded 99% of the parts that we need. So now I just need to get to work. First up on today's agenda is going to be some minor cosmetic modifications, just tidying things up and fixing probably the sketchiest thing about this thing, which I'll show you later in the video, because so on the floor we have a brand new grill from China. We have a custom built bull bar that came with the thing. It has a custom built roll bar that came with it. We had these welded up, they were tacked together. We had these welded up at an exhaust shop. We've got some 30mm hub centric stainless aluminium, Summit 4x4 hub centric spacers, 30mm spacers that I found in a scrapyard, some paint, some Scotch-Brite, and a new tailgate, also from China or Malaysia or Thailand. I'm not certain. Taiwan. Never mind, it's from Taiwan. This build is going to be the very antithesis of my blue Hilux that I spent the past 3 years building, restoring, and I went overboard with it, is what I'm trying to say. This thing is going to be budget. Everything that I buy new, I'm going to get the cheapest decent option. Obviously you can't cheap out all in all, because if you cheap out too far you're going to end up with crap. But as far as possible, I'm not allowing myself to buy anything new. That is why I found those spacers in a scrapyard, and I've got a bunch of other parts that I also found in a scrapyard that will be the subject of some later videos. I've always wanted to do a ratty budget build, if you can call it that. So rather than going full out, balls to the wall, completely insane like I tend to do, this is going to be built with the spirit of don't get it right, just get it good. If it's good enough, then it's good enough. It's not going to be crap, but I'm not going to lose my mind on this. I took this thing off-roading somewhere around last month, but it is so much fun to drive. And some of you might know, some of you might not, but a shit box, quote unquote, shit box is so much more fun to drive than a quote unquote nice car. Let's be honest, it's nice having a nice car, but with a nice car, especially when you go 4x4, it's, oh no, the paint, oh no, the wheels, the rims, ooh, the carpet, yo, so much stress. With a shit box, you just sort of point it in a direction and it goes there, and this thing does go there. It is super duper capable. So the bar work is over there somewhere off screen drying. Took me about an hour to paint everything, and for some reason, even though prepping bar work for paint sucks, painting it sucks even more. All these nooks, crannies, crevices, not to mention the fumes, because I lost my respirator. I cannot find it for the life of me. And you always end up needing more paint than you actually bought. So it's just not a fun task and it's boring to watch. So let's crack on with the interesting stuff. And I think I'm going to start with the grill. This should be quite easy. It's mostly broken. Up here it has 2 cable ties retaining it. Snip that, snip that. Where is it? More cable ties. Now on with the new one. Now this should just clip right in. It's got all its clips already in it. Now why is it being difficult? Now this side. It's detached itself again. Next up is the tailgate, if I can figure out how it's actually on here. Ooh, this is a slab right here. What? This thing almost looks like it's quick disconnect. The fuck? Hammer. There's nothing. What? What? Huh? No, there has to be an answer. Surely. The key of Allen. That's not budging. Alright, at least this one is much lighter. Out, it had two of these countersunk little Allen head bolts right there, keeping this little axle right here in place. Now this would normally not be a huge problem, but I don't know why those are Allen heads, and they were seized and rusted quite securely, so it took a lot of patience and a lot of tool in a can to get those loose. And to make matters even better, they were held in by non-captive bolts. So you can imagine wiggling your hand into that cavity right there. That was not fun. And I can imagine getting the tailgate on, it's going to be even less fun. Luckily, I repeat, that one is nowhere nearly as heavy as that one. Holy crap. Put it on that one, and then I'm going to put it on the strikers. No, there you go. There you go. Much better. Perfect. Please stay like that. Don't fall on top of me. This is such a stupid design. Why can't it just be like a Toyota? Hit is on! On to the next. We're gonna love this part. Now please take note of the stance that this thing has. The wheels protrude about somewhere between 100 and 80 millimeters past the bodywork, and this looks quite cool. Problem is, the axles are Hilux axles. This body is wider than a Hilux. Bother. A solid mild steel 80mm wheel spacer, and it's got one on all four corners. Some of you are against spacers altogether. Sometimes a spacer is necessary in my head, but an 80mm spacer, especially on the fronts, is it's a bit very sketchy. On the rear it'll do the regular stuff. It'll munch your wheel bearings, it will make you more likely to break your side shaft off at the hub, because basically you've given your wheel a fulcrum. And on the front, same principle as the almost tripped and fell, same principle as the rear, you now have a fulcrum. But on the front, you not only have wheel bearings, you also have a burr field. So while this thing is driving, the wheel actually goes bup, 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 bup. And it looks even sketchier than it feels, because you can visually see the wheels cambering negatively and then positively, and then just, it's not death wobble, like it doesn't feel dangerous in the car, but it looks super mank from outside. And then obviously that's not good for your burr field. Imagine the scrub radius on this when you're turning. That's just because this thing turns like a train. And I'm hoping that by installing much smaller spaces, this thing will get its handling back. Because wow, sometimes I need to do a 2-point turn to get into my driveway, and I've got a big gate. Just look at that difference. That is just bonkers. Just for reference, that's how it sits with the 80mm spacer. That is how it sits with no spacer. It doesn't look bad. Like, that's a good amount of poke. That will look good, but this plate, once this thing articulates, the inside sidewall is going to make contact with this plate as well as the chassis rail. So, what am I saying? Right, wheels back on. That is what the fitment on the 30mm spacer looked like. And then just for reference again, that is what the 80mm spacer looked like. Yeah, that's way better. Now I just need to do the other 3 corners, 36 lug nuts. So yeah.
Eventually.
Hello there, it is tomorrow, and last night things went rather poorly. As you can see, the roll bar is on, and if we come over here to the front, the bull bar is back on, so that's good. Neither are the prettiest of what they can be. The bull bar is pretty cool because it's really high clearance, it's really well thought out. The roll bar, I honestly think it looked better without the roll bar, but the roll bar is on, it's gone on, and it's going to be there for a minute. But as you can see from the stance of this thing, there are no spacers installed, and the spacers that I installed last night are no longer installed. That is because all 24 of the studs, all 24, spun when I went to torque down the wheels. So those junkyard spacers of mine are nothing but scrap metal. Unless by somehow you can repair them. They're not mild steel, so you can't weld the studs on. Maybe you can install M14 studs and just I don't know, but they are useless to me. And I can't put the 80mm back on. They are too big, they are sketchy, especially the front ones. The front ones each have 12 very distinct cracks. They were basically waiting to explode, so those aren't going on. And I mean, it drives perfectly fine on the road without the spacers. I just can't take it 4x4ing without the spacers. So for now, it will be like this until I can get some new spacers. I'm not buying second-hand again because I mean, the challenge was to not buy anything new for this thing, to go scrapyard, cheap as possible all the way. And there you go, it's not gone well. So I currently have my mate Gavin at 4x4 Northern Off-Road working on getting me a new set of spacers, because this fitment just, and I don't know if it translates well to camera, but this thing just doesn't look right without the space. And for those of you wondering, the rear bumper and side steps are not painted black because I ran out of paint. I'll go out and buy a couple of cans and just those quickly, because they're already kind of sort of prepped, but they just need to be black to match with the rest of everything on this. Yeah. Took this thing 4x4ing. The combination of the enormous scrub radius that I got from the 80mm spacers and the wheels that are way bigger than anything this body was ever designed for absolutely annihilated both my front fenders. So those will be cut, modified, hammered, etc, etc, etc in a future video to make everything work again. And I've also got a set of black and red OEM style vinyls to go on. Full vinyl kit. There's a company that makes the reproduction vinyl kits for these older vehicles. You can get them from everything like Corollas, Hiaces, Taxis, Hiluxes, Isuzus, Fords, you name it. If it's an old bucky, they most likely make a vinyl kit for it. So I got a set of that's going on. I've got a set of, I'll show you now, fender flare rubbers to go on. Obviously I can't put those on yet because I need to fix the fitment first. The rear is getting rubberized some other time, and then I gotta hit the interior because the interior is rough. And then there's the subject of the little old crate motor 4Y. That is either a Chinese or a Korean 4Y, not the proper Japanese one. And I mean, the engine is fine, but those carburetors are apparently notorious for being just incredibly unreliable. So I might pluck the 36 DCD off of the Corolla because I want to put a 38 DJS on the Corolla and put the DCD on this thing. I might, because this carburetor already doesn't work properly because the electric choke doesn't work, and this thing, when it's cold, getting it started is quite the kerfuffle. But as we all know, this thing does need the final 10%, but the final 10% is the most difficult. There's always, with these super crazy swaps, there's always these little finicky things, the little bits and bobs, bobbins, doodads and thingamajiggins that need addressing, fixing and tweaking. And this definitely still has a bunch of that. I want to do some styling to it. It's not going to be a restoration. This thing's going to be a shitbox for the rest of its life, and I want to keep it like that because it's just, I don't know how to describe it, but this thing just has good juju. It's got a good aura. It's a happy little car to drive around, and I think part of its charm is how ratty it is, so I'm going to keep it like that. Before I forget, here is that fender flare rubber that I mentioned. This sits there. You screw it with body mounting screws to your actual quarter panel, and then it extends, I don't know, what's that, 30 millimeters? I think it's 30 millimeters. And once I do have the spacers on, I don't really need to do it. I mean, it kind of looks cool without it, but I've always wanted to install it just to know how and to know how it is to work with. So that's another thing with this. I'm using it as a vehicle to do lots of stuff that I've always wanted to do to really any car, but like ideas that I had for the blue Hilux that never happened because on the blue Hilux they just didn't fit the bill, they didn't fit the build. They weren't good ideas for that car, but they might be good ideas for this. Like I've gone and gotten a set of Ford Focus ST170 Recaros in a scrapyard, obviously, to go into this because I've always wanted to see how those seats work. I've sat in them before. They are super duper comfortable, so I want to retrofit them into a vehicle. They also seem to be quite easy to retrofit. They don't have weird bracketry and stuff. The mounting points are sort of just flat, so they should just bolt to the floor or bolt to the pipe that I bolt to the floor to make sure that the correct height. I'll figure that out in a future video. So yeah, lots and lots of exciting stuff to come for this thing. In the next video, I'll most likely tackle the vinyl kit, because those vinyl kits, the glue on them, it gets old and then they stop working. I've had that before, and I really want to redeem myself by successfully installing a vinyl kit like that. And hopefully I'll do the spacers and that fender flare rubber as well. I really want to do all of that in one video. And also, on the topic of spacers, comment down below if you would like to see a video dedicated to spacers and how they do affect the vehicle. Where I can go more into depth on the pros and cons of spacers. More cons really. Spacers are affixed to certain problems, but they really mostly cause their own problems. After that, I really do need to leave that thing and the blue Hilux alone. Like, not touch them at all. The same goes for the Corolla over there. You can't see it on screen, but I'm pointing at it vigorously because, well, at least, well, I can drive them. That's fine. I just need to stop working on them because I need to focus on the Opel. It's just brakes. It's covered in bird fecal matter, and it's just, I need to get this thing finished. This is such a good car. Damn it, man. The point with the Opel where I either fix it or I just throw it away. Just forget about it. Leave it in a landfill. Don't leave it in a landfill. Get it recycled or something. And I'm not doing that. I'm not giving up. I'm not throwing it away. That car has been in the family for 25 years. I learned to drive in it. I'm very sentimental about it. And it's all in all just a good car. It's a good thing. It deserves better. So at least, if anything, it's going to be a hell of an adventure, because I repeat, I bit off way more than I can chew on that thing. Anyhow, so that is it for this video. A bit of a weird one in the end, but I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments what you want to see more of, what you want to see less of, and I will see you in the next video. Cheers.